All Things Unexplained.
So we're back. Welcome back, CJ. CJ Derringer's joining me. And we're pleased to have special guest Chrissy Smith from Patriot Muscle Health, a fitness guru, a princess of the paranormal. Chrissy Smith from Patriot Muscle Health.
I love it.
Thanks for joining us tonight, Chrissy.
Thank you. Thank you. Maybe I'm a patriot for the esoteric conversations.
Speaking of esoteric,
that's what I like to do in my free time when I'm not saving America.
That's right.
Saving America. I love it.
Speaking of esoteric conversations, we're going to dive right into it. This one's right in our wheelhouse. UFO, UAP news, folks. Brand new paper from the Ukraine titled Unidentified Aerial Phenomena 1, Roman numeral 1, Observations of Events. And this comes from the authors B.E. Zhelyev, and I believe his first name is actually Boris. And I've got a picture of Dr. Boris. This is from the observatory in Ukraine. Here he is, Boris E. Zhelyev. As far as I know, by the way, this is going to be the first actual in-depth analysis of this paper. This is indeed the first I've seen actual photograph or anything else concerning Dr. Zhelyev in the news. This paper has been all over the worldwide news, Yahoo, Science, New York Times, European news, you name it. It's been everywhere.
I'm not sure that's the picture I would want of myself associated with everything. Like a side profile looking concerned walking in the woods.
I know.
Interesting choice.
I guess it's in the field, right? Like if you're an astronomer, you kind of want to. It's kind of like archaeology.
You're literally in a field, yeah.
Yeah, you want your picture to be like from the Sphinx or something. And here it is, the Ukrainian version.
Oh.
Don't ask me if that's the same information. But it is the same picture. So there's Dr. Boris, and a great, strong Ukrainian name there. These other two, I could not find that they work. By the way, they work at the main astronomical observatory, NAS of Ukraine. I could not. Dr. Zhelyev is definitely there. I could not find Patukov and Reshetnik there, but I did discover online that they definitely are involved in physics and astronomy very heavily, have their names on all kinds of scientific journals. And so, that's a notch for the validity of this paper. Right off the bat here, it says, the main astronomical observatory of NAS of Ukraine has conducted an independent study of UAP. They mention the fact that, hey, in the U.S., our military is conducting a study of UFOs. NASA's conducting studies of UFOs. They're saying, you know what? In Ukraine, we are too. For UAP observations, they use 2 meteor stations installed in Kyiv and in the Veneravivka village in the south of the Kyiv region. I butchered some of this horribly. Observations were performed with color video cameras in the daytime sky, which I thought that was very interesting, in the daytime sky. We have developed a special observation technique for detecting and evaluating UAP characteristics. According to their data, there are 2 types of UAP, which they call, 1, cosmics, great name, and phantoms. So the cosmics, CJ and Chrissy, are the luminous, bright objects, brighter than the background of the sky. And they interestingly call these ships, and I like how they use the word ships, names of birds. So they name the cosmic UAPs swifts, falcons, and eagles. I have no idea how they settle on those names. Doesn't say. The phantoms, the second category of UAPs, are dark objects. To me, these are super intriguing. with contrast from several to about 50%. And they say we see them everywhere. We observe a significant number of objects whose nature is not clear. I thought it was real interesting how they say we see them everywhere. I'm not sure how scientific that is, by the way.
I noted that too when I was reading it. It was just, if I were writing an article, that might be the word I would come up with. We see them all over the place. Like, that's okay. Well, generic.
Right. And one thing I wondered about this paper, did the authors write this up in English, or did it get translated to English? You know, I'm not sure. It was
Right.
uploaded to a website, by the way, that any registered scientist can upload a paper to, and it does not undergo peer review. So we do need to note that. So basically, you can upload a paper in the morning. It's published by the evening, essentially. So they see them everywhere. They say flights of single, group, and squadrons of the ships were detected. I thought that was real interesting. I have no idea what the difference between a group and a squadron is, however.
I know. Maybe a squadron is like several groups of groups.
Or a really large group.
Maybe.
I don't know. And by the way, Chrissy, you might be muted. But a squadron... You there, Chrissy? Nope.
I am.
There
I'm
you
trying
are.
to mute myself because I don't want to have any feedback in case.
Oh, that's thoughtful of you.
Because
But
I didn't come prepared tonight, guys. I tried. I feel like
We're all
that.
doing our best, Chrissy.
I feel
We're
like
all doing
that.
our best.
Bart Simpson or whatever. He had this cake and it said, "Well, at least you tried," and then you threw it in the garbage can. That's how I feel.
hey, listen, technology has gotten the best of our most brilliant guests. Some of the most
absolutely. Yes,
brilliant
that is very true.
people on the face of the planet. So it just happens. But I wonder, maybe squadrons actually are groups that are moving with some sort of purpose, in a military fashion, for example.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, and I wish they said what do they mean by a squadron? And moving at speeds from 3 to 15 degrees per second. I hate it. This is some sort of physics problem. I attempted to somehow correlate degrees per second to miles per hour. It is not a straightforward calculation.
Yeah,
It seems to be an advanced mathematical problem, which I'll mention just a minute. I think that if you know the distance, and this was with the luminous objects, I think if you know the distance of said luminous objects, which, by the way, they're seeing these differently than the others because these are moving at incredibly high speeds. We're talking about they're observing them moving a certain amount of degrees in the sky. Think satellite, right? Satellite. And so, you know how you can see Starlink moving overhead, and you can say, okay, it moved this amount of degrees in a second.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I think that's the type of situation we're looking at, but very difficult to say the speed of those. They used 2 sites of observations that were situated approximately 75 miles apart. And I did do these calculations with 2 synchronized cameras, which allowed the detection of a variable, one of these luminous objects, at an altitude of, get this, 727 miles.
What?
Or, that's right, 1,170 kilometers, which is roughly 727 miles.
Wait.
I know, right? This is where they're seeing the luminous objects, the bright objects.
That's like way, way, way up there.
Cosmics. That's right. And I've actually got a little diagram here for us. That's actually because they say 1,170. Again, this is the first in-depth analysis of this paper so far as I know that I could discover. they say, okay, these objects were an altitude of 1,170 kilometers. As you can see, this places them in the exosphere, basically right below space, up there with spaceships, like space shuttles, and satellites.
Okay.
So, I mean, very interesting, right? Very interesting. Wait.
That's where they're seeing most of these objects. Is
No,
that high?
no. That's where they're
Oh,
seeing the
yeah.
cosmics, the luminous objects, is in the exosphere,
Gotcha.
which is really intriguing. Really intriguing. Now, the phantoms show the color characteristics inherent in object with zero albedos. I had to look that up. This is essentially, y'all, how creepy is this? An entirely black object. It emits no light. And matter of fact, it absorbs all light, all radiation around it, making it entirely black. The only way they could detect it is through something called Rayleigh scattering or Rayleigh scattering, which is the phenomenon of radiation bouncing off air molecules, which is what actually makes the sky blue. I'm sure y'all have heard these physics books before, how to answer questions by kids. And that's one of the questions your kids always ask is what makes the sky blue. And that's because of the Rayleigh scattering effect. And I actually have a picture here somewhere of one of these objects. Figure 7. Let me pull that up. This is from the paper, Figure 7. I don't know, y'all. It kind of reminds me of the obelisk from 2001: A Space Odyssey. The image of the phantom object. There it is. And I don't actually have any other way to describe it except it kind of does remind me of the obelisk from 2001: Space. And by the way, we've had a few shows. Remember the mystery obelisks that were popping up all over the planet?
Oh, yes.
The monoliths. The monoliths. I'm saying the
Yeah.
word obelisk. I mean monolith. So it reminds me of the monolith from 2001: A Space Odyssey. And the monoliths that were popping up.
It almost looks like a torpedo, like a shape of a torpedo.
Yes. Yes, it does. Really interesting. So they actually estimated the size. Let's see. The phantoms, these are the dark ones, are observed in the troposphere, or is it troposphere, at distances up to, and let me actually pull this layer up again. The troposphere is the bottom layer, so essentially from the Earth to about 12 to 18 kilometers high. It's where you've got airplanes, hot air balloons, that sort of thing. So very bottom layer. At a distances up to 10 to 12 kilometers, they estimate their size from 3 to 12 meters, and 12 meters is 39 feet.
Yeah, that's big.
Huge. And speeds up to, now when you read this, your mind really doesn't register it. These phantoms are moving now in the bottom layer of the atmosphere at 15 kilometers per second. That is 33,554 miles per hour.
Okay. I'm sorry. What sphere are we in with these? This is
bottom
the
layer.
second layer? The
No,
bottom layer.
bottom.
So our Earth's circumference is what, 25,000 miles?
That sounds accurate.
So this thing could get around Earth in less than an hour.
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
absolutely. Right. If only Columbus had that, right? Or Magellan. If only Magellan. If only Magellan had that. So I actually, just for, comparisons, I looked up some other speeds here. And
To be continued.